Hey everybody, this is Mick from Brutalitopia, along with my cohort Durf here. Say hi.
Welcome, Internet.
We are here, like we said, in Chicago with J.R. Hayes from Pig Destroyer. J.R., thank you so much for taking the time to do this with us. Now, you guys are kind of just doing a little string of shows here for Pig Destroyer.
Very little string.
Yeah. Just to start, for you guys at this point are kind of such a legacy act, I guess you could say, like...
That's a nasty term.
Yeah, is it? Is it?
Well, I think it insinuates that we don't put out new material, and we're trying to do that. So, you know.
Okay.
I mean,
I guess from my perspective, saying that, it was kind of like, you know, a band that's like kind of revered as like being somewhat like a band that started things, you know, not quite touring as much as they used to, like where the shows that they do play are really important, and like people come out in droves for them.
I'll take that.
Yeah,
I'll take that.
Yeah.
That's a nice recovery.
Right,
there.
right.
Well done.
That being
You
said,
said legacy act. I
Right.
started thinking, like, man, are we poisoned now? Is that where we've gotten?
Why am I talking to these people?
just kind of like how shows are for you guys now, as opposed to maybe when you were touring more. Like, do the shows kind of, like I mentioned, like mean a little more? Like, do you take it all in a little more? Like, what's different about them now for you guys?
Well, I mean, I've always been the type of person where the past is the past. I don't dwell on it. We've had great shows in the past, but they're in the past. Sure. And that's dead to me. So, you know, I just try to make the next show as good as every other show we've ever played, or better, if we can. It's difficult when you get older, though. I don't have the same pipes that I had when I was 22 years old, you know, but... you know, we just try to get out there, and for me, it's all about the moment and the here and now, and whatever happened in the past, you know, don't really care about it, to be honest with you.
So you don't care about the past, but you did mention that maybe you are trying to put out some new music. Is there anything immediately on the Pig Destroyer horizon? Is this tour kind of preempting that?
We're working on some stuff. We got probably about half the record written. I'm supposed to demo some vocals here pretty soon. And Scott's going to get to, you know, we spent a lot of time, you know, Scott he did his thing where he remastered and remixed the Prowler record. And then he was working on the Agoraphobic ARC EP. You know, I was working on that with him. And, you know, so we had to get all that stuff out of the way. And now he's trying to write some new Pig Destroyer material, which it's a little different from our older stuff, but it's pretty dope. So
Well, here we go. Here comes our...
Yeah, here's that train ambience that we were anticipating. Beautiful.
Only in Chicago do I get
Beautiful.
trains over top of my head.
Right. How is it working with, you know, side projects and kind of balancing that out with Pig Destroyer? Is it like a different mindset for you, or is it just kind of going with the same flow of like, let's just, you know, turn something out here?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just try to concentrate on what's in front of me, and I didn't want to worry about you know, we didn't have material written for the Pig Destroyer record, so it didn't really exist to me. So I was just kind of concentrating on what I was doing. You know, I work a full-time job, and I'm married, and, you know, the other guys have a lot of commitments. So, you know, we've always just kind of tried to do it when we can and do the best we can. And that's all we can do, I figure, you know. But sometimes it is hard to juggle, you know. Life is so busy, especially nowadays, you know. People got so much shit going on.
That's kind of something we were talking about earlier. Like, for you guys now at this point, like, when you're talking about, like, new material you guys are working on, like, the impetus to start that stuff, is it like someone calls, you know, everybody else up and is like, hey, I got the bug, we got to do something now, or is it kind of like a collective, you already have it planned in a way?
No, I mean, I never, you know, it all comes from Scott, because he's, you know, that's where the germination of the material is going to come from, and I've learned that pressuring people never does any good, with art, you know, because art is about inspiration, and if somebody's not inspired, then me yelling at him isn't going to fix anything. So I just wait until he's ready to write something, and then I let him write what he wants to write, and then I do my thing. And, you know, I think with a lot of bands, they you know, it's more rapid fire, because it's all about, like, you know, we want to put out a record so we can tour, or we want to do this or that. And with us, it's more of a slow burn, like it's a long game to us, you know. I mean, we've been around 20 years, and, like, I'm always of the opinion, like, if it's, you know, we're working on a new record now, but if it doesn't come out until 2019, then so be it. You know, it'll come out when it's ready, you know, and rushing stuff never does anybody any good. It's not the type of people that we are. So we try to look at it more of a long-term thing, and just and take our time and make sure everything is like we want it, because once you put it out there in the world, you can't take it back. Sure. Can't put the genie back in the bottle, you know.
Kind of to switch gears for a minute, when Mick told me that we might get this interview and talk to you, I've had a question that for the last probably 2 or 3 years has been in my mind about Pig Destroyer. Not a subtle name at all. And I just wondered what your thoughts are and what you feel Pig Destroyer's place is in this current kind of American political climate, where it kind of seems like for the first time, the mainstream Americans really have this distrust for the police. Is that something that you think about, or is it just, no, that was our name and now we're stuck with it?
Well, the funny thing about the name is we kind of came up with it as a joke. But, you know, as if like we were naming somebody else's band, you know, and then once Scott said it, we were like, well, why don't we just name our band that, because we don't have a name, you know, and it's good in that it's the sort of name that once you hear it, you don't forget it. And I think that's a good name. Sure. But, you know, it's the music and the band itself that gives the name value and the definition of it, you know. There's a lot of bands where I wouldn't necessarily like the name, but then the music kind of gives the name depth and, like, you know, and then also the listener, you know, interprets it in their own way. And as far as like the mainstream American politics, they're always fucked up, you know, and yeah, and I don't think they're necessarily more fucked up now than they've been. I think it's just that there's more media, so everybody's more conscious of everything being fucked up. Sure. But it's always, but you know, if you think about like, in the 60s, you had the Vietnam War, you know, and there's always something to be fucking upset about. And, you know, people are a bunch of fucking crybabies, man, you know, and I don't spend a lot of time worrying about people's feelings, you know. Sure. They probably deserve to be hurt anyway.
Kind of going on that with you guys' you know, band, the sound of the band, like very clearly like what people understand as like grindcore. That seemed to be something that was very deliberate for you guys from the beginning. What about that kind of genre, I guess you could say, it was appealing to you guys? It's like, let's go with this path.
I think that, I mean, I like all kinds of different music, sure, you know, all across the board, but I think that grindcore is probably my favorite. It's the cocaine of music. You know, it's energetic, it's short, it's fast, it's a burst of energy, and when it's done right, I don't think there's anything else that can touch it. And that's something that really, I mean, obviously we've stretched out, you know, when you've been a band for 20 years, you got to do different things. You can't play 30-second songs for 20 years and not get bored of it. But, you know, we try to keep the spirit of the original band and just try to, you know, make the most intense music that we can make, you know, and we understand that grindcore is not for everybody, you know, and I think that's another thing that gets lost in modern society is people think that because something isn't for them, it's wrong, or it shouldn't be around, or if it doesn't, you know, we've never tried to appeal to everybody. We just want to appeal. We know that there's people out there who are like us who just want vicious, loud, crazy music, and that's who we're playing for, and ourselves, you know, and fuck everybody else, you know, it doesn't matter.
What about that process of, because we tend to, we're really excited about this show, and let me stop because I hear another train.
And so, JR, your thoughts on that?
Oh, fantastic.
We're excited for this show because grindcore is something that we enjoy it, but we tend to not turn out to those shows as often. We're kind of more towards like progressive kind of bands where like they try and draw out the song structures as long as possible. For you guys,
well, and that has value too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially if you smoke weed.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah,
well, definitely. When you
but
smoke
what
weed.
For you guys, what's the benefit or kind of what you really enjoy about shorter song structure as opposed to, you know, something that's really technical, like, you know, highfalutin? Oh, we got to make a statement.
It's like a knife fight, you know. It's there's a couple stabs and it's over. You know, it's like it's not meant to be drawn out and long and boring and go to all these different hills and valleys, you know, and you know, that sort of thing is great in music, but in grindcore, that's not what grindcore is really about. Like, grindcore is about brevity and intensity and just harnessing violence basically, and trying to just drive people insane, you know. And most of the music that I listen to, I think most people would just consider to be noise. You know, whether it's short form or long form or whatever, like, you know, I just like intense music, and that's what we try to deliver, and sometimes we succeed.
We as we were waiting in the bar with all the baseball fans over there, we met a guy who asked us if we had seen you guys before. We said no, and he said, "You're in for the most fucking intense concert experience of your life." Do you agree with that?
Well, I can't sit here and smell my own farts, man. That's not good form to do that. I got to be humble. But, we just do our best, man. I still love it just as much as I did when we first started. And I try to hold on to that. I try to hold on to the ideals of what we want to do and try to work within that framework. And, you can't have a band without the fans, and it's a two-part process, and we feed off the fans' energy just as much as they feed off of ours. And when you create a big mosh pit and people, everybody's going crazy, like there's nothing else like it. There's no amount of Taylor Swift concerts that are gonna produce that sort of effect. It's kind of a unique thing, and honestly, I'm kind of enjoying it while it lasts, because at some point, insurance companies and clubs and people aren't going to be able to mosh, and they're not going to be able to get to stage dive, and they're not going to be able to get to hear loud music because it's going to damage their eardrums, and and fuck all these sissy people, man. But we're going to enjoy it as long as we can.
Most of it.
Absolutely.
Well, I guess unless you had anything else.
No, I think that pretty much covers it.
We always like to end off interviews on very stupid, silly questions. So one pun, I guess, we've been throwing around a lot that we have to ask.
I do have a question.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Actually, we don't need to. No, I can do this off.
We can do the silly question first.
I can do this off the record.
Okay, off the record. Okay. Is there any song that sticks out in your mind of Pig Destroyers that does indeed destroy pigs? Whether you interpret pigs as literal pigs or the pigs we were talking about earlier, and if not, what song do you think off the top of your head would?
Of any band? Oh, man. Wow. I don't know. I mean...
of any band, but a Pig Destroyer song as well.
A Pig Destroyer song as well.
Like, what one would you go to that's like, you got to fire from the hip, okay, let's go.
I mean, I've always thought that Scarlet Hourglass is one of our best pure grindcore songs. It's short. It's got all the different... it's got some dynamics in it for a 45-second song. Mm-hmm. And we've pretty much played that one ever since we wrote it. So,
that's a keeper.
Yeah, it's a keeper. Other people's songs, I mean... man, anything off the Assuk records, man. I mean, nobody does it better than Assuk. And if somebody, I saw them back in the day, but if anybody could get those people back together, man, I would go fucking crazy.
Awesome. Well, thank you, JR, so much for doing this interview. And for there's only only 2 or 3 shows left of this little string that you guys are doing, right?
Just tonight in Minneapolis.
Okay, well, if you're in Minneapolis.
And then we're going to try to get back to the writing,
Okay.
Yeah, but 2019, maybe they'll be on the road again.
Right.
With a new record.
Thanks so much,
Thank you
JR.
very much.